I think module number 3, no? This is the first very serious topic na meron tayo. Very practical, no? Yung application. If you remember, module 1 was just about general principles. Okay? Then module 2 was about the basic concepts of income taxation. No? So, mga foundational topics yung mga yan. No? But you would not find specific application ng taxation, no? Tungkol sa dalawang topic na yun. No? But they're very important. No? Kasi you have to learn them para you learn the succeeding topics more easily. No? But this one, module number 3, you'll find real applications sa topic na to. Okay? So take note, in general, there are two kinds of taxpayers. Okay? Individual and corporation. Okay? Sir, I think meron pang partnership kasi kinoconnect siya kadalasan sa types of business organizations. Pero in taxation, dalawa lang yan plus. Individual, tapos corporation. Ang partnership kasi, in general, tinatax yan as a corporation. Okay? So I want you to keep that in your mind. No? So generally, there are two kinds of taxpayers. Although we defined taxpayers last module. No? But in general, there are two kinds of taxpayers. Individual and corporations. Okay? So what we have here is about the individual taxpayers. Now we're going to discuss the following in this module. No? So who are the individual taxpayers? Then we'll talk about the taxation regime for resident citizens. Yan yung RC. No? Then we have NRC or non-resident citizens. Then we have resident aliens. Okay? So silang tatlo, they are under one taxation regime. Okay? Kumbaga, the tax rules are very similar for the three of them. Okay? We'll discuss separately the taxation regime for non-resident alien, okay, engaged in trade or business. Then separately also for non-resident alien, not engaged in trade or business. Okay? So, dito pa lang pinapakita ko na sa inyo na these are the individual taxpayers. So, sino-sino ang individual taxpayers? You have resident citizens, non-resident citizens, resident aliens. Yan, okay? Tapos you have non-resident aliens. There are two of them, engaged in trade or business, and the other one is not engaged in trade or business. Okay? So kung bibilangin mo, there are 5 of them. Yan. So bali 5, no? At ang pare-parehas ang tax regime ay for the resident citizen, non-resident citizen, and resident alien. Okay? So different tax regimes for non-resident aliens. Okay? Anong page sa book? By the way, bumili ba kayo ng libro na piniprescribe ko, yung kay Mr. Tabag?
Yes po.
Yes po.
Okay. So good. Actually, hindi ko lang dala ngayon yung libro kasi I'm in Binangonan right now. Naiwan siya sa Pasig. No? I'll message nyo lang tomorrow kung anong chapter siya. But I think it's 59 daw. No? So you can check it's about individual taxpayers. Okay? Doon sa mga natapos na natin na chapters dyan sa libro nyo, I will give you the answer key doon sa end of chapter questions. No? So, Okay, I haven't done that kasi hindi ko alam kung nakabili na pala kayo. So, I think okay naman, nakabili na pala kayo. So, it's really advisable na you have pa rin the book. Kasi, tandaan nyo class, wala kasing shortcut yung learning. Kaya, pagka ang binasa nyo lang yung binibigay kong module, well, you'll understand, pero the readings would not be enough. No? So after a while, maghahanap ka pa rin ng complete na babasahin. Okay? So, it's advisable na meron pa rin kayong textbook. Okay? Tapos, ang gawin na lang natin para mas valuable yung bibilhin yung libro, ibibigay ko yung answer key dun sa end of chapter questions para meron kayong pagpapraktisan, no, na parang reviewer. Okay? So at least dual purpose yung textbook nyo. Not only a textbook, but also a reviewer na rin. No? Okay? So, anyway, so there are 5 of them. Okay? Yeah. Then we'll discuss yung mga exempt from income tax, na all about individual taxpayers. Then we'll discuss the computation ng income tax for individuals. So ipahuli natin siya, although may mga illustrations later that we will compute for the income tax. Okay? Now, so let's talk about the individual taxpayers. So again, we have resident citizens, non-resident citizens, resident aliens, non-resident aliens. And there are 2 types of non-resident aliens na individual taxpayers. So those that are engaged in trade or business, and those that are not engaged in trade or business. Then, the exempt from income tax. Okay? So pag inaral mo siya, class, itong tatlo, pagsasamahin mo to. Si resident citizens, non-resident citizens, resident aliens, kasi iisa lang yung tax regime for them. Okay? Ihiwalay mo tong dalawa. So separate yung dalawa. Okay? Different kasi ang tax regime for the non-resident aliens. Okay? Both for engaged and not engaged in trade or business. Okay? Pag una mo siyang inaaral, on your own mo siyang ginawa, medyo nakakalito kasi imagine there are 5 of them that you're going to study. Okay? So, ang life hack, no? Ang study hack for taxation is to group yung first 3 as 1 because the taxation regime for them are the same. Okay? So, pwede yan, no? So, yung mga nasa POGO, we'll talk about them later, even yung mga nasa embassy, no? Or mga nasa government, foreign governments or foreign institutions. Okay? Okay, so sino-sino nga ba ang citizens ng Pilipinas? So, number 1, yung citizen nung time ng adoption ng Constitution, the 1987. So, yung mothers or yung father ay citizen, so automatically citizen siya nung pinanganak. Those born before January 17, 1973, Filipino mother, then they elected Filipino citizenship upon reaching the age of majority. Then we have yung naturalized citizen. So yung number 4, yan yung foreigner originally. When they come to the Philippines, no, then they sought for naturalization. Okay? Maraming ganyan. So different nationalities. No? Okay? So these are the citizens of the Philippines. So therefore, pag hindi ganito, then non-citizen. Okay? Okay, so paano nawawala ang citizenship? So, naturalization sa foreign country. So marami rin ganito, mostly mga immigrants, no? So na they want to be citizens now of other countries. So Canada, US, or kung saan man nila gustuhin. Okay? They renounce the citizenship. Okay? O kaya they have an oath of allegiance, no? So doon sa foreign country na yun. Okay? So kaya sa case ng naturalized, their certificate of naturalization has already been cancelled. Okay? Kaya by declaration, okay, pero time of war naman to, no? Deserter, yeah, okay? So I'm just giving you some ideas, no, about citizenship. But of course, this is not our main concern, okay? Our main concern is the taxation for individuals, okay? So yeah. Okay, anong ibig sabihin ng resident citizen? So ito yung Filipino citizen na ang resident ay sa Pilipinas. So either he or she lives permanently in the Philippines, or he stayed outside of the Philippines but for less than 183 days during the taxable year. Okay? Pero pag sumobra dito, non-resident na siya, no? So that will follow for the taxation. Okay? So you become a resident citizen if you live permanently in the Philippines. Of course, you stayed outside but for less than 183 days. So I think in our case, ako, kayo, so we are resident citizens, no, of this country. Okay? So sino naman ang non-resident? Ang non-resident, yung physically present with intention to reside abroad. Okay? So the intent is the controlling here. So gusto niya talaga mag-reside na abroad. So maybe required by working condition or for personal matter. Okay? So the common example therefore ng mga non-resident citizen, mga immigrant, mga permanent employee abroad, like mga OFWs. So employee abroad, physically present abroad most of the time. So that's at least 183 days. So yung kabaliktaran ng kanina. Okay? Now, a previously considered non-resident citizen who arrives in the Philippines at any time during the taxable year, okay, so dati siyang non-resident. So, may intention na siya to reside permanently in the Philippines. Okay? Treated siya as non-resident for the taxable year in which he arrives in the Philippines with respect to his income derived from sources abroad. I highlighted until the date of his arrival in the Philippines. So imagine yourself, OFW ka last year, 2021. So you're a non-resident citizen ng 2021. Okay? Tapos bumalik ka ng Pilipinas ngayong taon, 2022. And you want to permanently reside na in the Philippines. You want to settle down everything, no? What will happen? What will happen? Ano ang classification mo ngayong 2022? Kasi non-resident ka kasi OFW ka last year, 2021. Ano ang classification mo ngayong year? Non-resident ka pa rin ba or magiging resident citizen ka na? The answer is, it's a mix of both. It's a mix of both. From January 1, 2022, okay, until today, ano bang date ngayon? September 11. Okay? So, non-resident ka pa rin. Okay, pero starting tomorrow, until December 31, 2022, you'll be classified na as a resident citizen. So it's going to be a mixture ng dalawa, no? Okay? So siguro you might be wondering, sir, bakit natin kailangan i-distinguish ang citizen? Kung resident ba siya or non-resident? Okay? The reason is your taxation. Pag resident ka kasi na citizen, lahat ng income mo worldwide ay taxable. But if you are not, you're a citizen but you are non-resident, ang taxable lang sa'yo yung income mo sa Pilipinas. Okay? So, yan. So, generally, there are three types of non-resident citizen. So, immigrants, yan, okay? So, you want to migrate another country, so you become non-resident citizen, okay? So, that's from the time of your departure from the Philippines, okay? So, employees of a foreign entity on a permanent basis. So, this is the same as immigrants, no? And finally, we have overseas contract workers. Okay? Mga OFWs, no? Ang mga to. Okay? So, they're non-resident citizens. So, anong advice nyo sa OFWs? Anong income ang taxable sa kanila dito sa Pilipinas? Are they going to declare their income from abroad? What do you think? Will you tell them, o yung kinita mo dyan sa US, i-declare mo dito sa Pilipinas? Of course not, no? Tama. So, within the Philippines lang, no? Okay? So, mga immigrants, mga OFWs, they permanently reside and they have to be physically present abroad. They're non-resident citizens. Okay? Yeah. For me, that's a good thing, no? Kasi, OFWs help our economy with the dollar remittances that they do, no? So, it's a good thing na wag na natin i-tax sila sa mga kinita nila outside. Okay? So, anyway, resident alien. Okay? So, ito yung individual na ang residence ay nasa Pilipinas. Okay? Tapos hindi siya citizen. So, who are resident aliens? So, hindi siya transient lang or sojourner, no? Ang kanyang definite purpose ay what do you call? Kumbaga extended yung stay niya dito sa Pilipinas. So resident siya dito. Pero kung yung purpose niya sa Philippines can be promptly accomplished, then transient lang yan. So hindi siya resident sa Pilipinas. Okay? So to determine whether an alien is resident or non-resident, titignan mo yung purpose ng pagpunta niya sa Pilipinas. Kasi may purpose naman yan. No? Kung madaling matapos ang purpose niya dito sa Pilipinas, then go back na siya sa country niya. Then non-resident siya. Okay? Otherwise, kung mag-stay siya dito ng extended talaga, then resident alien siya dito. So what do you think of the tourists, our visitors, no? Foreign visitors? Are they resident or non-resident aliens? So generally, they are non-resident, correct? No? So they come here for, vacation for a certain period, definitely, no? Definitely yung purpose na yun. So they're just on a temporary visit dito. So non-resident yun. Okay? Paano kung sa case ng mga expatriates, mga expats? So for example, an American who serves as a CEO of uh, of an American company, American multinational company na merong branch or subsidiary dito sa Pilipinas. So in that case, that's going to be a resident alien. Okay? So kung CEO siya, is going to manage the branch or the subsidiary that they have here in the Philippines for an extended period of time. Okay? So, ganun lang siya simply distinguish. Okay? So I think in reality, you'll not find it difficult to determine whether a taxpayer is a resident citizen or a non-resident citizen, a resident alien or a non-resident alien. So don't think na mahirap itong part na to. You know, sometimes we have a self-sabotaging thoughts. No? Parang iniisip ko, ang hirap naman ito. Eh, yung tuloy, iniisip mo na mahirap siya. Kaya, naging mahirap talaga at ginulo yung isip mo. So, don't think na mahirap to, okay? So, lalo na in reality, it's really practical and easy to determine the taxpayer's classification. Okay? So, non-resident alien, so an individual whose residence is not within the Philippines and is not a citizen here in the Philippines. So, pwede siyang engaged in trade or business. By the way, yung engaged or not engaged in trade or business, it's only applicable to non-resident alien. For residents, okay, this is not applicable. Okay? So, for the non-resident alien, kung engaged siya in trade or business, that will depend kung ang aggregate stay niya in the Philippines ay more than 180 days. Okay? So, otherwise, kung hindi siya nag-exceed, then hindi siya engaged in trade or business. Okay? So, the determinant, ang nagdedetermine kung engaged or not in trade or business, ang isang non-resident alien is the period of stay in the Philippines. And that is 180 days. Okay? So, okay. So I hope it's now clear the classifications. No? Kailan ba siya citizen? Kailan siya resident? Kailan siya engaged in trade or business? Kamusta kayo? So, okay naman? Eunice, what's your question? Never siyang pumunta sa Pinas pero may business siya dito. Kumbaga may pinapamanage lang, no? So, let's say you're an American, then may manager ka lang na Filipino. Non-resident alien not engaged in trade or business because the determinant is the period of stay. Okay, so
Sir, bali basically kahit may business siya dito, as long as hindi siya pupunta ng Pinas, non-resident alien yun.
Kasi the determinant is yung...
Pero taxable pa rin po siya, no, yung business niya?
Yes, taxable.
Okay. Thank you.
We'll check later kung paano siya i-tax dito.
Okay po.
Pero medyo hypothetical yan kasi we're talking about individual taxpayer. Kung ganyan kasi ang assumption, most likely ang classification niyan sa Philippines ay yung business niya would be a corporation.
Okay po. So yung corp po yung matataksan, hindi siya mismo, no?
Yes, unless dividend is declared, then
yes,
there's a corresponding tax on dividend.
Okay po. Thank you po.
Now, I hope you remember etong slide na to. Do you remember the slide? I showed you this last week. These are the different types of Philippine income tax, di ba? So 9, no? And what have I emphasized sa inyo last meeting about the slide. Ang na-emphasize ko sa inyo, I hope you remember, each type of income tax that we have here ay iba-ibang rules. That's correct. Actually, no? Iba-ibang rules. Unique. No? So, therefore, it's important na you identify which of these 9 types of taxes are applicable to individual taxpayers. So generally, we have 2 taxpayers, diba? Individual tapos corporation. So not all of this are applicable to individual taxpayers. Ang applicable lang ay itong 5. So you have graduated income tax, gross income tax, capital gains tax, final income tax, and we have fringe benefits tax. Although we will discuss this sa ibang topic, okay, separate topic to. Kasi may special rules pa dito sa fringe benefits tax. Okay? So, syempre, itong corporate, so hindi yan pang branch, so hindi yan applicable to individual taxpayers. Okay? So, what are the taxes that may apply to an individual that we're going to discuss in this topic? So, graduated. So, later you will see a schedule. Okay? The graduated income tax rates. What else? You have gross income tax. Remember, pag gross income tax, ang tax niya ay nandun sa gross amount, di ba? Nasa gross amount. Hindi siya nasa net taxable amount. Okay? So, applicable din pala ang gross income tax to individuals. Okay? Then we have capital gains tax. So if you have a capital asset transaction, okay? Actually, dalawa lang yan eh. Real properties saka shares of stocks. So these are capital assets. So capital gains tax may apply to you even as an individual taxpayer. Okay, what else? Final income tax. And finally, we have fringe benefits tax. But I want you to ignore muna itong fringe benefits tax for this topic that's going to be covered in a separate topic. Okay, so let me ask you again, what are the types of income taxes that you're going to encounter in this topic? Meaning the income tax applicable to individual taxpayers, graduated, gross income tax, what else? Capital gains tax, and final income tax. Fringe benefits tax, although it's applicable, we'll discuss in a separate topic. So ang kailangan nyong alamin ngayon, when are they going to apply? Because as emphasized, they have separate and unique rules. Okay? So dapat nyong alamin kailan sila magiging applicable. Okay? So let me show you this table. So we have here the following columns. The taxpayer, and whether it's taxable on what income, gross ba or net. Whether within or without the Philippines. The type of income, gross income or net, and the tax base. No? I think yun pala yung gross or net yung tax base. Okay? So the first one is resident citizen. So anong sources ng income ang taxable sa resident citizen? Di ba sabi natin, this is worldwide, within and without the Philippines. So taxable siya worldwide. You remember yung issue dati kay former Senator Manny Pacquiao? Meron siyang earnings from the US, pero hinahabol siya ng BIR. I don't know kung naalala niyo yun. BIR was correct sa kanyang paghabol kay Manny Pacquiao. Dahil si Manny, citizen siya, even though lumaban siya abroad, that was, temporary lang. Hindi naman lumagpas, hindi naman umabot ng 183 days daw yun. So, so ang classification niya, resident citizen. So ang tax sa kanya, pati yung income niya abroad, di ba? So, worldwide. Okay? So, the type of income, pag compensation, the basis ay gross income. Okay? So, pag yung income mo ay galing sa wages, salaries from your employer, yung income mo na yon, kunwari kumita ka sa isang buwan ng 50,000. Huwag mong babawasan yun ng expenses. Kasi tinatax yun, ang nakalagay dito, sa gross amount. Huwag mo siyang babawasan ng expenses. Magagalit yung BIR. Okay? So, huwag mong ibawas doon yung pamasahe mo, yung nagastos mo sa transpo, yung pagkain mo. So, hindi pwede. Kasi ang compensation income, tinatax yan sa gross. So, that's what we call gross income tax. Okay? Pero kung meron kang in-exercise na profession, business or trade, ang taxable sa kanya ay yung taxable amount mismo. So meaning to say, net amount yan. So let's say meron kang negosyo, okay? Ang i-tax mo, wag yung sales mo. Wag yung gross profit lang. Dapat ibawas mo rin pati yung mga operating expenses mo. Okay? So that's the difference between the two. Yan. Okay, the third type of income is passive income and capital gains. Yan. Okay? So pag passive income or capital gains, ang taxation niya ay gross income. Except for the capital gains on unlisted na stocks ng domestic corporation. Okay? So, memorize nyo to, ha? Yan. Then we have non-resident citizen. Ang taxable nito ay within the Philippines lang. So, as you can see, pare-parehas sila. Yan, parehas. So, ganun din kay resident alien, it's only within the Philippines. Yan, okay. Okay. So we'll discuss yung difference nito later. No? So among the 5 taxpayers, sino yung kaisa-isahan lang na worldwide yung taxation? So that's only the resident citizen. Other individual taxpayers are taxed only for income sourced within the Philippines. Okay? Now, let's talk about this one. No? Philippine Embassy, consulate service personnel. Ang Pilipinas, saan tayo may mga embahada? Yes, Don, that's correct. Iba't ibang country. So you have in the US, different countries. Okay? Kunwari, nag-serve ka as an employee, a Filipino employee, sa embassy ng Pilipinas sa US. Okay? Physically, where are you located in? Physically and literally, where are you located in? US or Philippines? Nasaan ka physically? Take note, yung embassy ng Pilipinas nasa US. Nasa New York or whatever, hindi ko alam actually kung nasaan. Nasa US siya. So physically, nasa US ka. Pilipino ka, nagtatrabaho ka doon sa US. Pero sa embahada ng Pilipinas sa US. Physically and literally, nasa US ka. Pero by fiction of law, yung land na yon na nandun sa US, kung saan nandun yung embahada ng Pilipinas, by fiction of law, territory daw yun ng Pilipinas. Okay? That's why ang rule dun, hindi ka treated na non-resident citizen. Your income is taxable because you are a resident citizen. Okay? So, yung embassy ng Pilipinas na nandun sa US, by fiction of law, by rule of law, teritoryo siya ng Pilipinas. Although literally, nasa US siya, di ba? So therefore, kung Filipino ka, na nagtatrabaho ka doon, you are treated as a resident citizen. Wala ka sa abroad, nasa Pilipinas ka. Therefore, your income there is taxable. Okay? So, yan yung may ganyang rules sa law natin. And the principle behind it is yung tinatawag natin na International Committee. Remember? Sovereigns are equals. No? So, okay. Now, let's talk about citizen versus alien, individual employees. This time naman ang mga foreign embassies and international organizations in the Philippines. Ito, baliktarin natin, class. Baliktarin natin. Merong embassy ang US dun sa may Manila Bay, di ba? Nandun yan eh. Sa Rojas Boulevard. Physically, nasa Pilipinas yun, di ba? Nasa Rojas Boulevard. Okay? Pero by rule of law, by rule of international committee, sakop ba yun ng Pilipinas or territory yun ng US? So, hindi siya sakop ng Pilipinas. Okay? So, territory siya ng US. So, anong treatment mo dun sa mga alien, let's say Americans, no? That are working dun sa embahada nila? Are they resident of the Philippines or not? So they're non-resident, no? Aliens. So, wait lang. Sandali. Pag Filipino ka, tapos nandun ka raw, pag Filipino, we're talking about yung kanina, foreigner, no? Pero pag Filipino ka, tapos nagtatrabaho ka sa US Embassy, treated ka pa rin daw na resident citizen. So you're subject to income tax being worldwide yung taxation mo. Pero yung mga foreigner na nandun, so they're exempt kasi they're non-resident alien individuals. Okay? So I guess we're okay, no? Yun yung taxation rules sa mga embassies. Okay? So there's that fiction of law, no? Or rule of law. So it follows international committee. Now we're gonna cover this part. The taxation regime for resident citizens, non-resident citizens, then resident aliens. So pag samasamahin natin itong tatlo, same rules for them. Okay? So let's see. So don't forget itong table na to. I've shown you this one earlier. So what's the significance again? Kung bakit natin kailangan alamin kung resident citizen siya or not. To determine kung ano ang subject to tax, no? Kung anong taxable. Kung worldwide income or only within the Philippines. So, tandaan nyo lang, isa lang naman yung worldwide yung taxation. And that is resident citizens. The rest ay only for those income na within the Philippines. Okay? Tapos, class, is it important to determine the type of income? Kung compensation ba siya or from profession, business, or trade? Or passive or capital? Yes, because that will determine the type of tax. Kung graduated ba? Kung gross income ba? Okay, kung capital gains? Kung final tax. Actually, yun yung answer, class, kung bakit sinasabi ko sa inyo. Alamin nyo yung different types ng tax kasi ang rules, di ba, ay unique for each of them. Depende kasi sa type ng income yun. Depende sa type. Pag compensation, then gross ang taxation niya, hindi net. Pero naka-graduated din siya. So, yan. So, kailangan you memorize this table, okay? So, check maigi ito, huwag kalimutan. Okay, so let's discuss the details, okay? Resident citizens, non-resident citizens, and resident aliens. So, except for income subject to final withholding tax. Take note. Except for income subject to final withholding tax. The income tax nitong tatlong to ay computed using the graduated tax rates. At ito yung graduated tax rates na yun. Pero wait lang, dahan-dahanin natin. I want you to imagine na lang this situation para you can easily see the application. Meron kang 5 different types of income. 5. Yung dalawa, subject to final withholding tax. Ito yun. FWT. Yung dalawa ay subject sa final withholding tax. Yung tatlo ay hindi. Paano ka magko-compute ng income tax sa 5 yun? Pagsasama-samahin mo ba ang 5 yun or you separate yung dalawa na subject to final withholding tax? Very good. Hiwa-hiwalay, separate yung dalawa. Okay, so ganito siya. So yung dalawa, ihiwalay mo dun sa tatlo. Okay? Yung tatlo, ang pagsasama-samahin mo, ilalump mo yun together. Okay? At pag tinotal mo yun, yung amount nun, for example, ay 900,000. Ang gagawin mo, yung 900,000 na yun, subject na yun to graduated income tax. Dito mo na siya hahanapin sa table na to. So kung 900,000 yun, ang tax nun, dito siya magpo-fall. Do you agree? 900,000 is over 800,000, but not over 2 million. Agree? So, ganun siya, no? Ang gagawin mo ganito. Di ba 900,000 yun? Yung first 800,000, ang tax niya ay 130. Okay? So, yung excess, magkano lang yung excess? 100,000, right? The tax on the 100,000 is 30%. So I think that's 30,000, no? So ang total tax mo sa 900,000 mo ay 160,000. So ganun yung taxation. So what do you do? Para mapabilis yung learning nyo dito sa income taxation ng individuals. Here's what you do. You have to memorize those income na subject to final withholding tax. And I will later enumerate them for you. So those income that are subject to final withholding tax should be memorized. And what do? Pag nakita nyo sila, you separate them from the rest of income na meron ang individual. Kasi yung na final withholding tax na, dahil final na yun, hindi na kukomputan pa ng tax yun. Hindi na i-declare yun, final na yun. Hindi ka na pwedeng habulin doon ng BIR na withhold na, nabawasan na ng tax yun bago mo pa ma-receive. Okay, so that's the technique. That's the technique. Memorize the different types of income that are subject to final withholding tax. Okay? And for those income na hindi na subject to final withholding tax, what do you do? Kung ikaw ay resident citizen, non-resident citizen, or resident alien, what do? You lump them together, you separate them from the final withholding tax na income. You separate them and you lump them together, and you apply what income tax rates using the table, the graduated table. Very good. So the challenge is for you to memorize those income that are subject to final withholding tax. Pero may similarities yung mga yun eh. Generally, mga passive income yun. Kaya later, madali nyo rin ma-memorize yan. Okay? So, simple lang naman ang taxation ng individual. So, syempre, pag inaaral mo lang, sa una, may learning curve kasi. Mahirap talaga sa una. Pero, as more time you devote to studying it, you'll realize it's not that complex yung sistema ng individual income taxation. Okay? So pag tinanong ka, paano ang taxation ng individual taxpayer? So ang sagot mo, for resident citizens, non-resident citizens, resident aliens, ang taxation ay depende sa income. Itong mga na final tax na, okay na yan. Hindi na yan tinatax kasi na final na yan. Na withhold na yan. Yung iba na lang, and you apply the graduated income tax rate. Okay? Now, let's talk about self-employed and those that are professionals. Okay? So, sino-sino ba itong mga to? Sino-sino ba itong mga self-employed? Self-employed, ito yung mga negosyante, di ba? May sariling business, that's correct. Sole proprietors. Okay? And professionals are like businessmen also. Professionals are parang mga businessman din sila. So, kunwari, doktor, may sariling clinic dyan sa, okay, saan mang location, lawyer, nagpa-practice, accountant, nagpa-practice, okay? So, sila to. So, may sarili silang business. Sole proprietors sila. Okay? Ano ba yung income na meron sila? Passive or hindi? Passive lang ba ang income pag may sarili kang business? You're practicing your profession? So, hindi. Therefore, hindi yan sila subject to final withholding tax. So, therefore, mag-a-apply sa kanila yung graduated. Okay? Yun nga lang, ito yung rule. Meron siyang additional rule. For SEP, self-employed or professionals. Pag ang gross sales or gross receipts and other non-operating income. So take note, revenue ito. This is not gross income or gross profit. Revenue ito. Sales and receipts. Pag hindi raw lumagpas ng 3 million, may option ka to avail of an 8% tax on your gross sales or receipts and the other non-operating income. In excess, so babawasan mo muna ng 250,000. Okay? In lieu of the graduated. At ang kagandahan, so instead na magbayad ka ng in lieu of, or meaning instead na magbayad ka ng graduated, hindi ka na magbabayad ng graduated, hindi ka na rin magbabayad ng 3% percentage tax. Ang babayaran mo na lang, instead yung dalawang to, 8% ng gross sales mo. But of course, you have to deduct first from the gross sales the 250,000 amount. So example, may sarili kang negosyo, in a year, naka-generate ka ng revenue na 2.5 million pesos. Okay, 2.5 million pesos. So sarili mong business, generally, ano mag-a-apply? Kasi hindi yan subject to final withholding tax. Graduated ang mag-a-apply. Okay? Pero binigyan ka ng option. Pwede raw, huwag ka nang magbayad ng graduated. Ang bayaran mo na lang, ilang percent? 8%. So kung 2.5 million ang sales mo, bawasan mo muna ng 250,000. So that's 2.25 million. There you multiply 8%. Okay? So, yun ang rule sa kanya. Kasi di ba, pag may negosyo ka, hindi naman yan passive income. So therefore, hindi yan subject to final withholding tax. Ang mag-a-apply dyan, graduated. Pero sabi ng batas, since maliit lang naman yung income mo, wala pang 3 million yung sales mo, para hindi ka na mahirapan at hindi mataas yung tax mo, magbayad ka na lang ng 8% doon sa gross sales mo. You deduct lang 250. Kasi 250 is exempt. Tingnan nyo sa graduated class. Pag not over 250, the tax is 0. Kaya ang rule, binabawas muna yung 250. If you have chosen the 8% optional tax. That's optional. Because if you don't exercise that option, you still have to pay the graduated tax rate. So ang default talaga, graduated tax rate. Okay, pero kung hindi naman lumagpas ng 3 million, then you have the option for 8%. Okay? Pero kung lumagpas, hindi pwede yung 8%. Kailangan, you apply the graduated tax rate. And by next year, January 1, 2021 onwards, this is the new graduated tax rate. So mababawasan to From 20%, the first rate na will become 15. So liliit siya. Mababawasan siya. Okay? Although yung dulo nito mas mataas na. The same lang pala rather. Okay? Let's talk about mixed income earners. Mixed income earners. Ang ibig sabihin ng mixed income earners, you have income from compensation and you have income from business or practice or profession. Kunwari, isang doktor, empleyado siya ng isang hospital. Kunwari yung hospital dyan sa may Tayuman. No? So, empleyado siya nun. Pero meron siyang sarili niyang clinic sa labas. Yung sahod niya sa hospital ay income from compensation yun. Yung income niya naman dun sa clinic niya is income from business or practice of profession. So, the doctor, that doctor, anong tawag mo sa kanya? Bukod sa masipag siya. Okay? So, masipag magtrabaho, no? Ang tawag sa kanya ay mixed income earner. Okay? Notice, no? Yung sahod niya sa hospital, ang applicable doon, graduated income tax rate. So lumalabas, ang income from compensation, may option ka ba na i-tax lang ng 8%? Meron or wala? Ang income from compensation, may option ka ba na i-tax yan ng 8%? Ano sa tingin mo? Ang sagot ay wala. Ano ang klase ng income na diniscuss natin sa previous slide na subject to graduated tax rate, pero may option ka na mag 8%. Income from business or profession na less than 3 million SEP. Okay? So, therefore, pag compensation, hindi naman yan from business practice or profession. Therefore, pag compensation, graduated lang na income tax rate. So kung empleyado ka ng isang kumpanya at yung sahod mo, na-receive mo, tapos nagreklamo ka sa HR, sabi mo, dapat 8% na lang yung bayaran ko. Hindi pwede yun. Kasi walang option for that na i-tax ng 8% rather than the graduated tax rate. So pag sahod, talagang graduated tax rate yung applicable. Okay? However, etong doctor na example natin, di ba siya ay mixed income earner? Meron na siyang kita galing sa sahod, meron pang galing sa business profession. So, ang gagawin mo raw, paghihiwalayin mo yung dalawa. As you can see sa slide na to. You separate yung income from compensation from the income from business profession. Yung galing sa compensation, graduated lang yan. Okay? Pero yung galing sa business or profession, ito ay, titignan mo kung ang gross sales or receipts and other non-operating income ay hindi lumagpas ng 3 million. Okay? Kung yes, hindi siya lumagpas, pwedeng graduated income tax rate. Di ba yan ito yung default, this is the default tax na applicable. Or you can use 8%. Okay? Based on gross sales in lieu of the 3%. In lieu of the graduated and the 3%. Pero take note, class, yung 250, di ba may 250 na binabawas? Remember? This time, hindi na to binabawas dito. Kasi ito, nabawas na siya actually dito sa income from compensation. Kasi, di ba sa graduated, ano ang tax ng first 250? The tax of the first 250 is 0. So dito, pag ginamit mo tong 8%, hindi na siya ibabawasan pa ng 250 kasi nabawas na siya dito sa compensation income. Otherwise, there's going to be a double deduction. No? So hindi na. Pero kung no ang answer sa tanong na hindi ba siya lumagpas ng 3 million. So kung no, ibig sabihin lumagpas siya ng 3 million. At pag lumagpas ng 3 million, the option na i-tax ng 8% is not available. So therefore, it's subject to graduated income tax rate. Okay? So si doctor, let's say kumita siya ng 500,000 compensation income in a year doon sa hospital na sahod, no? Sahod. So, anong tax ang mag-a-apply doon sa sahod na yun? Graduated. So, kung 500,000 yun, saan siya magpo-fall dito? 500,000 will fall dito. Over 400. So, ang tax ay 30. Then 25% sa excess. So, magkano ba? 25,000, tama? Okay? So, bali ang total, 55,000. Agree? Doon ba sa 500,000, nabawasan na yun ng 250 effectively? Nung in-apply yung graduated tax rate? Yes. Kasi the first 250, ang tax ay 0. So, yun yung tax niya sa sahod niya doon sa hospital. Sa clinic niya, sa clinic niya, kumita siya ng 1 million. Ano ang tax na applicable doon sa 1 million? What's the answer to this question? Lumagpas ba ng 3 million? Sorry. Hindi ba lumagpas ng 3 million? What's the answer? The answer is yes, hindi siya lumagpas. Okay? So yes, hindi lumagpas. What's the tax rate for the 1 million na kita niya dun sa clinic? Pag wala kang ginawa, graduated pa rin yun. Okay? Pero you have the option na gamitan yun ng 8%. Okay? Pero kung sakali, ginamit mo 8%, yung 1 million ba, babawasan mo pa ng 250? Hindi na. Hindi na. Kasi it will be a double exemption na, di ba? So 250, you multiply by 8%. 1 million, you multiply by 8%. So that's 80,000. No? So that's your tax na babayaran dun sa 1 million. Okay? Pero class, let me emphasize this. Kung sakaling graduated ang pinili mo dun sa 1 million na yun, yung amount na matatax doon ay hindi yung 1 million mismo kasi sales yun eh. You are entitled to deductions. Kasi pag may business ka, you're entitled to deductions. Pag may business ka, ang tinatax, generally, hindi naman gross income, but the taxable amount. And the taxable amount is, if you have a business, you're entitled to deductions. Kaya which one is beneficial? That depends kung malaki or maliit yung profit margin mo. Kasi kung maliit lang, maybe the more beneficial is the graduated. Kasi for business, pag graduated ang in-apply, hindi gross ang tinatax, but rather yung net. Okay? Pero ang 8%, saan siya tax ang 8%? 8% is a tax on the what? The gross. Okay? So it's not a simple conclusion na dapat gawin na mababa ang tax mo kung you opt for 8%. Mababa yan kung malaki ang gross margin mo. Kung malaki ang gross margin mo kasi, mataas kasi ang graduated tax rate. So, malaki ang lalabas na tax. So, you opt na lang for gross tax na 8%. Pero kung manipis ang margin mo, kunwari, retailer ka lang, hindi ka naman service professional or manufacturing, you rather choose graduated. Mas mababa siya. Although the rates are higher than 8%, but the rates are applied to the taxable income, which is net of your expenses. Okay? However, applying 8% is very straightforward kasi ang kailangan mo lang i-substantiate yung top of the line mo. Top line mo lang. No? Yung revenue, di ba? Okay? So when you read textbooks or tax rules, be slow in your reading. Each word may have different meanings, so you have to be careful. Okay? So, yeah. Don't worry, we have some illustrations that we can apply. Dexter, you have a question?
Sir, good afternoon po. Ay, good morning po. Sir, tama po ba na kapag yung only source of income mo lang ay mula sa business or profession and yung income mo is less than or equal 3 million and pinili mo yung 8%, pwede mo pa na ba ma-avail yung 250,000 po na ilaless sa iyong taxable na sa gross?
Hindi ka mixed income, no?
Apo.
Pwede pa rin.
Pwede pa rin po. Sige po.
Kasi first time mo lang or one time mo lang siya ma-avail yung 250 na deduction. Tingnan niyo yung wordings nito, class. Wala ditong 250 kasi mixed income ito. Kasi ang assumption, yung 250 na avail na siya dito. Once mo lang siya pwedeng i-avail. Pero sa previous slide, ito, hindi siya mixed. Wala tong compensation income. So ito yung question ni Dexter. So are you allowed to deduct the 250? The answer is yes. Kasi since wala ka namang compensation income, you haven't yet availed of the 250 exemption. So you can deduct the 250. So kung yung doctor, hindi siya empleyado ng hospital, clinic lang talaga ang meron siya. So kunwari, kumita siya ng 2.5 million in a year, ibabawas mo muna yung 250. Saka mo i-multiply yung 8%. Eunice, you have a question?
Sir, dagdag ko lang po dun sa sinasabi po ni Dexter. So meaning, for the first year lang yung 250K, then the next following years kapag po nakatayo pa rin yung business, ibig sabihin hindi na ibabawas yung 250 kasamahan na siya, ganon.
Ibabawas pa rin. The tax kasi is yearly. So it's not just in the first year. So kunwari, next year, yung doktor kumita naman siya ng 2.8, di ba?
Opo.
Next year, babawas mo pa rin yung 250. So that's going to be 2.55 million. Tama? 2.55. So doon mo i-multiply yung 8%. Although na minus mo na siya last year, di ba?
Opo.
So the application of the tax is on a yearly basis. Kasi yung income mo naman, every year din to. Yung sales mo, every year. I think I haven't emphasized that yet. Ang taxation kasi ng individual, yearly. So yung rules na dinidiscuss natin dito, they are repeated yearly. They're applicable. They apply yearly. Are we okay?
Okay po, sir. Thank you po.
So, hindi lang initial year. So, mabuti rin, di ba? Kasi you're entitled to it every year. So, kung 5 years ka lang nag-operate, then kung entitled ka naman sa 8%, doon sa 5 taon na yun, every year mong ibawas yung 250. That's correct application. Okay, so let me continue. I think we have illustrations dito. Later pala. Sino raw yung hindi pwedeng mag-avail ng 8%? So, yung lumagpas yung gross sales receipt ng 3 million. Kung VAT registered, bawal, regardless of the amount of sales. If you're subject to other percentage tax, except yung nasa section 116, ito yung other than 3%. Kasi para lang sa 3% yung 8% na yan. So kung other than 3% percentage tax, hindi applicable yung 8%. So partners ng GPP, General Professional Partnership. In my case, I'm a partner of a firm. We operate a GPP. So I cannot avail of it. So hindi siya allowed. No? So, okay. Now, election of 8% mandatory. So once na sinignify mo siya, dun sa first quarter mo na return, that for that year, that's already elected. So, pero pag hindi ka nag-elect, nagagamit ka ng 8%, ang mag-a-apply sa'yo is the graduated. Remember, graduated tax rate is the default taxation. So kailangan, if you're going to avail of 8%, the first quarter pa lang, i-avail mo na kagad siya. Okay? So para hindi mag-flip-flop ba, sabi ng BIR. So the option is not is irrevocable. Okay? Ito siya. No amendment shall be made. So once elected in the first quarter, that will apply for the whole year. Okay? But remember, class, for individuals, the rule is you follow calendar year. So therefore, paano ang reckoning ng yearly income mo as individual for taxation? If you follow calendar year, that's going to be from January 1 until December 31. So pag individual ka, bawal kang gumamit ng fiscal year. Individuals are mandated by law to follow calendar year. Okay? So tandaan, income tax is a yearly tax. Yearly tax on income tax. And for individual, ang year na tinutukoy ay hindi fiscal year, but calendar year. Okay? We'll talk about the case of corporation sa next module. Okay, so we have illustration number 1. Elected the 8%, but the gross sales receipt exceeded 3 million. So Mr. JMLH signified his intention to be taxed at 8%. Yan. Sa kanyang gross sales sa first quarter income tax return. He has no other source of income. His total sales for the first 3 quarters amounted to 3 million. Pero yung fourth quarter niya may 3.5 million. So ito yun. First quarter, second, third, 3 million. At pinili niya 8%. So 8% yung mag-a-apply. Mandatory na yan. Yun nga lang, biglang dito, lumagpas. So what do you think? Is the taxpayer here entitled to the 8% gross income tax option? So no. Okay, so therefore, the tax shall be computed as follows. Total sales ay 6.5 million. That's 500,000 plus another 500,000 ng second quarter, third quarter, 2 million, plus the 3.5. So the total is 6.5 million. Pero pag graduated, ano sabi ko sa inyo kanina? Pag graduated, saan siya ina-apply? Gross income or taxable income? I think we have some confusion, no? Pag compensation na graduated, gross yun. Pero this is business. Pag graduated, tapos business siya, dapat sa taxable. Hindi siya sa gross. Okay? So, therefore, ima-minus mo yung expenses mo. So, cost of sales, so 300,000, another 300,000, 1.2, then another 1.2. So, the total is 3 million. So, gross income is 3.5. Then you have operating expenses, 120, 120, 480, and 720. The total would be 1.44 million. So taxable income is 2,060,000. Okay? So ang tax due under the graduated tax rate for the 2,060,000 ay 509,200. Tingnan natin kung tama ba itong 509,200. Check natin, ha. Remember the amount. The amount is 2,060,000 taxable income. Wait, nasa na ba yun? Sige, iyan na natin kung mayroong mga nakalagay. So, magkano amount again? 2,060,000, right? Tama?
Yes po.
So, alin siya dito? Anong row siya dito sa table na to? The row is over 2 million. So, this one. Malabo. Over 2 million, no? This one. Okay, so that's 490. Yung excess, 60,000, di ba? You multiply 60,000 by 32%. Then the product, you add to 490,000. Would you get this amount? Would you get 509,200? Okay, so good, no? Kaso lang, ginawa mo yan for the whole year. Ang tax due mo, ibabawas mo pa yung mga nabayaran mo na. Pero the first 3 quarters na binayaran mo, 8% ang ginamit mo, di ba? Eh pag 8%, saan siya ina-apply? Sa taxable income o sa gross sales? Sa gross. Ito yun, yung tatlong to. 500, 500, 2 million. So that's 3 million. Pero di ba, since hindi ka naman mixed income earner, wala kang compensation income, you're entitled to 250,000 exemption. So you deduct muna the 250. Then there, you multiply 8%. So ang nabayaran mo na pala, 220,000. So ang due mo na lang ay 289,200 pesos. Are we clear with the illustration? Okay, so yan. Don't worry, we have more illustrations to follow. In illustration number 2, gross sales receipt exceed 3 million. Let's find out. What do we have? Miss RPSV is a prominent independent contractor who offers architectural and engineering services. Since her career flourished, her total gross receipt amounted to 4,250,000 for the taxable year 2018. Her recorded cost of service and operating expenses are as follows. Ito siya. So are you entitled to the 8% gross income tax option? The answer is no. So what would apply? The default tax would apply, which is the graduated. Being graduated, tax rate, the computation, sorry, di ba business income ang meron dito, profession? Pag business income graduated, dapat mag-a-apply yung graduated sa taxable income. So taxable income is gross receipt minus cost of service and minus operating expenses. So that's 1.1 million. So applying the graduated table, for the first 800,000, the tax is 130,000. For the excess, 30%. So for a total of 280,000. Ano nga yung type ng income na gross pa rin siya kahit graduated ang applicable? If it's about what income? Compensation. Very good. Pero kung business yan, dapat taxable income, which is net of your expenses. Okay? We have illustration number 3. There's no election of 8%. Let's find out. In 2018, Mr. GCC owns a nightclub and a videoke bar. Ang kanyang gross receipts ay 2.5 million. Ang kanyang cost of sales and operating expenses ay etong mga to. 1,600,000 and the non-operating income of 100,000. So wait lang. What would apply? Since meron siyang business and hindi niya pinili yung 8%. So graduated. So since graduated, ang mag-a-apply at business income to, sa taxable income tayo magta-tax. Which is from the gross sales, you deduct the expenses, cost of sales, operating, and other non-operating income. So that's 1 million, no? Then you apply the graduated tax rate. For the first 800,000, that's 130,000. For the excess, 30%. Total, 190,000. Okay? Let's go to mixed income earner. Mr. Mag, a financial controller of Job Company. Earned annual compensation in 2018 of 1.5 million. That's inclusive of 13th month pay and other benefits na 120,000. Notice class, exempt kasi itong 13th month pay. Hindi yan tinatax. Pero, up to 90,000 lang. So, therefore, tatanggalin mo ang 13th month pay. Pero ang babawas mo lang dito, instead na 120, 90,000 lang. Exempted yun eh. Para, kasi Christmas time yan, di ba? Magastos pagka Christmas. So, in-exempt siya ng loan natin. Pero there's a ceiling, no? And the amount is 90,000. Net na siya ng SSS and PhilHealth contributions. Okay lang yan. Dapat talaga binabawas yan kasi mga mandatory contributions yan. Okay? So, question. Ano ang mag-a-apply na tax doon sa compensation? Graduated or 8% option? Graduated. Bawal ang 8% sa compensation. Pero since compensation to, binabawas mo ba yung mga expenses mo sa compensation bago siya i-tax? No. So therefore, anong mababawas mo lang dun sa 1.5 million na compensation? The exempt. Na magkano exempt na 13th month? 90,000. So hanggang dun lang. Hindi naman talaga bawas ang 90,000 kundi tinatanggal mo. It's a little different. Okay? It's not expense, but it's just an exemption. No? Now, aside daw from employment, meron pa siyang convenience store na may gross sales na 2.4 million. Okay? So, cost of sales and operating expenses, ito yung mga yon. Pero meron pa siyang non-operating income na 100,000. Di ba yung 100,000, ipa-plus mo yan sa 2.4. That's 2.5 million. So this one did not exceed na 3 million. So do you have an option to apply 8%? Yes. Okay. So in this case, his tax for 2018 shall be computed as follows. If he opted to be taxed using 8%. For the compensation, yan. Ito yung ginawa natin kanina. Tinanggal natin yung exempt, the maximum of 90,000. So ang tax due mo sa compensation, so 1.4 million, for the first 800,000, 130. For the excess, it's 30,000. Yan. So sa compensation, yung tax mo, 313,000. Now, for the business income, since you applied 8%, saan dapat i-multiply yung 8%? Dapat sa gross sales. And that is 2.4 million plus the non-operating income of 100,000. So 8%. Diretso 8%. Ulitin ko lang. Bakit hindi na binawasan ng 250,000 itong 2.5 million? Bakit wala nang bawas to ng 250K? The reason is, nabawas na yon sa compensation. Kasi nag-graduated ang compensation. Mixed income earner kasi siya. Okay? Pero kung wala kang compensation income, then you can deduct the 250 from the 2.5 million. Kasi the 250 can be availed of how many times lang? Once a year. Okay? Per year, no? So therefore, the total tax due in this case is 513,000. Okay? Now, ano naman kung yung 8% hindi niya pinili? Paano kung yung 8% hindi niya pinili? So what would apply to both type of income? Compensation and business. So graduated. Okay? So this is what's gonna happen. So sa compensation, yung exempt, remember class pag compensation, hindi mo babawasan ang expenses Kaya wag mo dapat ilalump together. Kukumputin mo muna yung taxable amount for both separately. Then after, saka mo lang ilalump together for the graduated tax rate. So tingnan mo, sa compensation, kinompute niya muna to. Ito muna. Then separately, kinompute yung sa business. Yan, ito siya. So ito yung binabawasan ng expenses. Okay? Then pag na-compute na to, taxable income na siya, taxable compensation na rin yun, yung isa, saka mo pagsasamahin. 2.31 million. Then on the 2.3 million, you apply the graduated tax rate. So dapat wala akong makita na compensation income tapos binawasan ng expenses. Hindi pwede. Pag compensation kasi, hindi ka naman na negosyo Diba? So whatever is paid to you is your income. Yung nagagastos mo naman, pagkain mo, transpo mo, that's your personal expenses. And personal expenses are not business related. So they should not be deducted from your income. So therefore, compensation income is taxed without the benefit of reduced expenses deductions. Okay? Now, on February 2019, ang taxpayer na to nag-resign. So, yung kanyang compensation, magkano lang daw? 150. Okay, inclusive of benefits na 20,000. So, remains the same yung business operation niya. Opted siya for 8%. That's how it's going to be. Ang taxable compensation income mo, from 150, bawas natin yung 20. Remember, the maximum is 90,000, di ba? But that's maximum. Pero since the actual amount is lower, then you just deduct the actual, which is 20K. So, ito siya, 130. So, what would apply to the 130 taxable compensation income? Graduated. Pero sa graduated, ano ang tax sa first 250,000? Zero. So ito siya, zero. Okay? So then, you compute separately for business income. So gross income, the same. So pinili niya ang 8%. Yan, ito siya. So bawal nang i-deduct yung 250 kasi na-avail na yon dun sa compensation income. Saka mixed income earner siya, di ba? Okay. So do not, what do you call this? Combine compensation income and business income. Pwede mo lang i-combine if you're gonna apply na on them the graduated tax rates. Okay? So that's the computation. Now, illustration number 5, mixed income earner. Mr. WBV, an officer of a company, earned in 2018 annual compensation of 1.2 million. So my 13th month, the total amount is 120. Magkano maximum na pwedeng ibawas? That's just how much? 90K. Aside from employment, meron daw siyang farm. That's 3.5 million. So ang kanyang cost of sales and operating expenses, so ito, non-operating income na 100,000. This is the computation. For the compensation income, reduce the amount by the exempt 13th month pay. So this is the taxable compensation income. For the business, gross amount, yung sales, bakit hindi ginamit pala dito yung 8%? I forgot to ask you that. Kasi ang ginamit dito, graduated na eh. Na-deduct mo yung expenses, then the total taxable amount, in-apply yung graduated tax. And the total tax is 845,200. Because the sales, including the non-operating income, exceeded 3 million. That is 3.5 million plus 100,000. 3.6 million. So there's no option to avail of the 8% optional tax. Okay? Ito additional lang yung PERA. PERA stands for Personal Equity and Retirement Account. So pag contributor ka sa PERA, you're entitled to a non-refundable tax credit, 5% ng contribution. So the maximum allowable contribution for Filipino residents, 100,000. Overseas Filipinos, 200,000. So 5% ng 500,000, you can claim as tax credit. Okay? Pwede mong ibawas yung 5,000, I think 5,000, no? 5,000 ay 5% ng 100,000. Ang 5,000, pwede mong ibawas dito sa 845, 200. So ang tax due mo na lang, 840, 200. Because 5,000 is a tax credit. Pero for you to have this, kailangan mag-contribute ka sa personal equity and retirement account. You have to open a bank account, tapos retirement fund mo yan. Nag-offer ng ganyan incentive yung government to encourage savings. Okay? And to promote long-term investment. Okay? So, the benefit is you can claim tax credit. So, let me continue. Kulit ng anak ko eh. Wait lang. So let's continue. Types of income ng resident at saka citizens and resident aliens. O, dito ka muna, mag-hi ka muna sa amin. How are you, class pala? Hindi ko kayo natatanong. Are you okay so far? Okay pa ba kayo? Sige. Sige. Let me continue. Again, ano yung pinagsama natin yung tax regime, yung tatlo? We have, buhay pa naman. Okay. So ano yung tatlo? Resident citizens, non-resident citizens, and resident aliens. So yung tatlo ang kino-cover natin. Ha? So same rules yung mga na-discuss natin for the three of them. The type of income for them, compensation income, income from business, and income from practice of profession, passive income, capital gains, and other income. Now, among the five that we have here, ang na-cover na natin ay etong dalawa. So you know already the taxation for them, for the two of them. We'll find out itong dalawan. Okay? So compensation income is income arising from personal services rendered under employer-employee relationship. Okay? That's why you don't deduct personal expenses kasi personal unit. Kaya ang taxation natin sa sa compensation income is at the gross amount. Hindi, walang expenses. What we remove ay yung mga exempted lang. Like 13th month pay, okay? That's removal, not deduction. So salaries, wages, commission, basta may employer-employee relationship, ang mga nare-receive mo is in the form of compensation income. Okay, so tax that gross amount, no deductions for expenses. Let me clarify. For expenses are allowed. Okay. Unlike pag business income or profession income, you have cost of sales, cost of service, operating expenses that you may have to deduct. Okay. Exclusions. So French benefit for other than rank and file. But I will not discuss this muna kasi separate topic tong French benefits. De minimis, kasama yan dun sa French benefit topic. These are, very small benefits na hindi taxable. 13th month pay, as we've discussed, bonuses, other benefits, exempt yung not exceeding 90,000. And those specifically excluded by law. So business income, okay, or income from practice or profession. So business and or trade income. Fees from exercise of profession. Gains from sale or exchange of assets. Commissions, rental, and other incomes not covered by compensation. Question lang. Pag meron kang apartment, which you earn rental income, di ba? What type of income is it? From compensation or business profession? Correct. That's business profession. I'm saying business profession because I don't want to separate business and profession income. Kasi isa lang naman ang tax rule nila. So it's just compensation versus business profession. So it's business. Okay. Okay. Passive income. Okay. Interest, royalties, yan. Dividends, Prizes, okay, result of an effort. Kunwari sa isang contest. Winnings, result of a transaction where the outcome depends upon chance, like, making a bet. So these are the examples of passive income. Now, why are we discussing passive income separately from compensation income and income from business profession? The reason is this. Generally, passive income is subject to final withholding tax. And remember, pag na-subject na to final withholding tax, hindi na siya sinasama sa tax, sa income na isa subject to graduated income tax. Okay? So ito yung gusto kong ipamemorize sa inyo. Pag may nakita mo itong mga ganito, final withholding tax ito. And you're supposed to separate them. You're not supposed to include them sa other income mo na you'll subject to graduated income tax. So the first one is interest. So pag meron ka daw deposit sa bangko, yan, bank deposit to. Or, deposit substitute, trust fund, similar arrangement, the tax is 20% final. Okay, and withholding tax yan. Ganito siya, class, para malinaw. May deposit ka kay Banco de Oro. Kumita ka ng interest amounting to 100 pesos. So, meron kang interest income na 100 pesos. Since may income ka doon, dapat ba i-tax yun? Yes or no? Okay? Nag-deposit ka kay BDO, kumita ng interest income na 100 pesos yung deposit mo. So, may income ka na 100, interest, no? Dapat ba may tax yun o wala? Sige. Dapat may tax yun. At ang tax nun, 20%. Pero, since final withholding tax yun, ang mangyayari doon ganito. Iaawas na ni BDO, withholding agent si BDO, yung 20%, so that's 20. So magkano na lang ibibigay sa'yo na income? 80 lang ang ibibigay sa'yo. Yung 20, i-remit ng BDO diretso kay BIR. Okay? So, na final withholding tax na siya. So, pag ganun ba, i-declare mo pa ba sa ITR mo at kukumpitan mo ng graduated tax yung interest income mo na 100 or hindi na? Hindi na. You have to remove that. Okay? So that's the tax rule for final withholding tax. So you have to memorize these things na subject to final withholding tax. Generally, mga passive income. So bank deposit, interest income, ganun din yung mga long term. Yun nga lang, pag more than 5 years yan, 5 years or more, exempt. Pero pag na-preterminate, depending on the number of years na nahawakan mo siya, may tax na siya. Pero kung nahawakan mo ng matagal, 4 years to less than 5 years, 5% lang instead na 20. Pero kung 3 years to 4, 12%. Pero kung less than 3 years, babalik sa 20%. Okay? Pag sa FCDU, we will discuss FCDU sa next topic ng resident, citizen, resident alien, 15%. Pero pag FCDU ang ibig sabihin foreign currency. Pag foreign currency, tapos mga non-resident, then OFW, Seaman, mga non-resident yan, exempt. Then FCDU in a bank, joint names ng OFW, tapos yung spouse niya na resident. Yung kalahati, yung pertaining sa OFW, exempt. Then yung sa spouse na resident, yung kalahati, subject to 15%. Okay, so within the Philippines to mga to, So memorize nyo to, okay? Then royalty, in general, 20%, final din siya. Pero pag mga libro, mga literary works, yan, sa music, yan, sa authorship, 10% lang. Okay? Then prizes and winnings. Pag prizes not exceeding 10,000, exceeding 10,000, 20% final. Pagka not, graduated siya. Then other winnings. Pag sa Lotto under PCSO, not exceeding 10K is exempt. So others exceeding 10K, 20% final. Okay? So dividends. Galing sa domestic corporation, yan, 10% final withholding tax. So let me ask you, kunwari nag-invest ka kay Jollibee, 1 million ang in-invest mo. Binayaran ka ngayon ng dividendo ng Jollibee, 100,000. Is 100,000 really the amount that you're going to receive? No. Because that is subject to what? Final withholding tax at the rate of 10%. So 100,000 times 10% is 10K, di ba? So you deduct that. So how much would you actually receive? So 90K. And what's the obligation of Jollibee with regard to the 10,000 withholding tax? Jollibee has to remit that to BIR. Okay? On your part, pag gumawa ka ng ITR mo, i-declare mo pa ba yung dividend income na yon or hindi na? Hindi na because that was already subjected to final withholding tax. Okay? So, sinong hahabulin ng BIR? Na-deduct na yun eh. Sinong hahabulin ng BIR kung may hindi nabayaran na tax? Ikaw ba o si Jollibee? So, si Jollibee. Kasi Jollibee is the responsible person doon. Okay? Pag final withholding tax, ganun siya. Kaya maganda kung ang mga income mo, mga na-subject na sa final withholding tax, mga passive income. So, wala ka ng tax obligation to prepare your tax return. Hindi ka nakahabulin ng BIR. Kasi ang binahabol talaga dyan, yung withholding agent. Paano pag nasara yung company? Kunwari, nasara si Jollibee. In that case, si Jollibee pa rin yung hahabulin. So, you're really, yes, Eunice? Question?
Sir, may i-ask lang po ako. Kasi po, yung mother ko, nagtrabaho siya sa isang, tahian nung mga 20s pa, mga matagal na po. Kasi etong company na to, hindi binibigay yung taxes nila sa BIR. Tapos ngayong nitong nakaraang taon lang po nalaman ng mommy ko. Paano po kaya yun? Kaso sarado na po kasi yung tahian.
Ang
Matagal na.
hinahabol kasi pag ganyan, yung presidente, saka yung treasurer ng kanya.
Pag hindi po nakita, wala na talaga.
Outstanding lang yung kaso nila. May kasong tax evasion.
Okay po. Thank
Pag
you po.
nahuli, may kulong yan.
Oo nga po eh. Thank you po, sir.
Sige. Ang walang kulong lang, di ba, if you don't pay your cedula. Pero other taxes, may criminal offense yan.
Okay po. Thank you.
On the part of the employee, kasi withholding tax yan, you don't have liability. So, yan. Saka wala na sa iyong pera eh. Diba, naawas na siya bago mo pa na-receive as an employee.
Yes po.
Okay?
Thank you po.
So, this one, pag galing naman sa foreign corporation, received ng resident, graduated tax yan. Ang pina-final tax lang natin, class, take note, itong heading natin dito, yung mga within the Philippines. So you can see sa previous slide, puro within the Philippines to eh. Lahat ng galing sa outside, graduated yung tax niyan. Pag foreign corporation, tapos received ng non-resident, tapos yung resident alien, exempt. Kasi galing sa foreign corp, at sila naman, Pilipinas lang yung taxable sa kanila. They're not worldwide ang taxation. Okay? So eto, kung na-receive siya ng resident, citizen, taxable pa rin kasi worldwide ito eh. But since galing sa foreign, it's not within the Philippines, graduated siya, hindi siya final withholding tax. Okay? So ito nga yun, no? Pag ang passive income ay galing sa labas ng Pilipinas, pag na-receive ng resident citizen, graduated yan. In this case, final withholding tax will not apply kasi out of reach siya ng BIR. Hindi siya makahabol. No? So, yeah. Pero syempre, pagka other than RC, then exempt yun kasi outside of the Philippines. Now, we have some illustration dito. How much is the total final tax sa income ni Pedro? Resident citizen daw siya. At ito yung mga income niya. Royalty from copyright. Net of tax. Ilang percent ang royalty tax? Final withholding. Pag copyright. Remember, copyright is related to books, di ba? It's 10%. So, kung net na to, ilang percent na lang to? Nabawasan na to ng 10%, so this is representing 90. Di ba? 90%. So, mineral claim, royalty. So pag mineral claim, 20% ito. Therefore, the 12,000 represents 80% na lang. Share from trading partnership. Yan, net na rin. Okay, so this is dividend, di ba? 10%. So, final withholding tax or final tax. So, sa royalty, you gross up muna, then you multiply by 10%. 1,250. Mineral royalty, gross up muna, multiply by 20%. 3,000. Then for dividend, gross up muna, then 10%. So, total is 34,250. Letter B yung answer. Anong sagot nyo dito sa number 2? how much is the income tax still due and payable? Okay, so the answer is delta. No? So wala na kasi these are already final withholding tax. So you're not liable anymore to declare that. Okay, and that's out of reach na ng BIR as far as you are concerned because the liability rests with the withholding agent. Yun yung nagbayad, yung payor. No? So bago mo pa ma-receive, dapat na-withhold na niya. Okay? Capital gains, konti na lang class. No? Net capital gains from sale of shares of stocks. So not listed, traded sa PSE. So 15% siya, final. So kunwari, bumili ka ng stocks, ang bayad mo 100,000. Nabenta mo siya later on for 110,000. So magkano ang capital gain mo dito? 10K. So the tax is 15%. So you have to pay 1,500. This is net capital gains. Pero tandaan, hindi listed hindi traded sa PSE. Kunwari, bumili ka ng stock sa isang corporation dyan sa tabi-tabi. Hindi siya listed sa PSE. And this is the transaction. So meron kang CGT na 1.5. Capital gains tax. Okay, pero pag traded yan, that is exempt. Subject yan sa ibang tax. Didiscuss natin to next semester. Hindi income tax yung STP. Okay? Pag listed and traded sa local tax exchange. Kunwari, bumili ka ng stocks ng Jollibee. Jollibee is a listed company sa PSE. So, pag later on, binenta mo na and you have a gain, that gain is exempt from CGT. So that's the benefit of those that are traded sa Philippine Stock Exchange. Okay? So sa real property naman, meron ding capital gain yan. 6%, whichever is higher, selling price, fair market value, yan, kung ano mas mataas. Pag binenta mo sa government, you have the option na magbayad ng graduated tax rate instead of the 6%. Pag sa government. Pag residence mo ang binenta mo, exempt, but under certain conditions. Okay? We will discuss itong mga to separate topic. Meron dedicated na topic para dito. So don't worry kung hindi pa masyadong emphasized. We have dedicated topic for dealings in properties. Medyo marami pang ibang details yan. No? Kailan siya exempt, what are the conditions, saka na lang yun. No? Now, income from sale or exchange or other disposition ng other capital asset. Ibig sabihin, other than shares of stocks and other than real property. Subject ito sa rule on withholding period, but this is subject to graduated income tax. Okay? Don't worry, again, this is covered in a separate topic, separate module dedicated alone for capital gains on dealings with properties. Okay? Now, capital gains for sources outside the Philippines. Pag received ng resident citizen, graduated siya. Again, hindi final withholding tax to. Kasi this is out of reach ng BIR. Kasi the source is outside of the Philippines. Other income, informer's reward. Ang ibig sabihin nito, nagsumbong ka sa BIR ng tax evader. And if the BIR recovers tax from your information, BIR can give you informer's reward. Pero itatax ka pa rin. Final tax of 10%. So 10% nung na-recover ng BIR, or the maximum is 1 million, whichever is lower, yun yung reward mo. And 10% of your reward will be withheld by the BIR in the form of final withholding tax. Sa election, pag hindi binalik, yung excess campaign funds, subject to graduated income tax. Ano yung issue kay Yorme nung nakaraang election? Ang issue sa kanya, nung nag-run daw siya dati, meron siyang excess campaign fund na natira. Yun. So, sinarili niya na lang. Pero sabi niya, nagbayad na. So, sorry, my connection got lost, no? Pero we're done for today. So we have discussed yung tungkol dun sa taxation regime for, remember yung tatlo, resident citizen, non-resident citizen, tapos resident alien, okay? So yun lang for today. Next week, we're going to discuss new topic after this. So that will be on the Friday, the regular schedule. Sige, let's take our pictures na. Okay? And we'll dismiss. So please